The core of this story lies in redemption, identity, and defiance against stereotypes. At its heart, it's about a young black student, deeply underestimated and ridiculed by peers and staff alike, who overcomes societal and institutional bias through sheer will, talent, and quiet brilliance. His victory isn't just personal, it's symbolic, revolutionary, and unforgettable. The main idea revolves around triumph in the face of prejudice. The story tackles themes of racial bias in academic environments, invisibility of black excellence, and the resilience of youth who are denied the spotlight. The protagonist becomes the embodiment of the phrase, "prove them wrong," not out of vengeance, but as a way of reclaiming his space in a system that refused to see him. The genre is contemporary drama with inspirational undertones. The setting is a high school, but the story ripples with wider implications, commentary on race, education, and internalized limitations. While the setting may be localized, the message echoes universally. Emotionally, the dominant tone is empowerment mixed with anger, hope, and quiet pride. We want the audience to feel indignant for the protagonist at first, then inspired, and eventually uplifted and proud when the final reveal comes. There's also an underlying current of suspense, because no one sees the twist coming, not even the people who should have known better. Why this title works? The title immediately signals injustice and underdog narrative. They said a black kid couldn't win, triggers an emotional reaction. It hints at systemic racism and narrow-mindedness. Then he shocked the whole school, teases redemption and reversal of expectations, promising the reader a satisfying emotional payoff. It's bold, provocative, and demands attention. Narrative hooks embedded in the theme. The quiet genius nobody noticed. The competition everyone thought he'd lose. The revelation that made the whole school go silent. The teacher who doubted him. The speech that changed everything. This story will peel back the layers of one young man's struggle against stereotypes and doubt, show his internal world, his self-doubt, his rage, his private victories, and take us all the way to a moment of stunning triumph. And when it ends, we won't just remember what he did. We'll remember who we almost failed to see. The auditorium was packed. Lights hot. Air tense. Applause had died down, replaced by that heavy silence right before someone's entire life changes. And the winner is, the host hesitated, eyes flicking over the envelope like it might burn. People in the crowd leaned forward. Some already knew who they thought would win. The golden boy of the debate team, the principal's favorite, white, polished, predictable. But then the name came out, and nobody clapped. Not at first. Malik Thompson. The silence cracked. Confused murmurs. A dropped phone clattered on the wooden floor. Someone actually laughed, sharp, dismissive, like it was a joke. Like the host had said it wrong. Like the system glitched and a ghost got crowned king. Malik stood up slowly from the back row. Alone. Unapplauded. A backpack still slung over one shoulder, sneakers scuffed, hoodie sleeves too long. The only black kid in the senior academic league. The kid no one ever saw standing on a stage. He didn't rush to the podium. He walked like it didn't surprise him. Like he already knew. Like he'd been preparing for this moment not for weeks, but for years. On stage, the mic squealed. He adjusted it with 2 fingers, eyes scanning the sea of pale faces and tight smiles and dropped jaws. "You weren't expecting me," he said into the mic. His voice was calm, steady. "That's okay. I wasn't expecting any of you to believe I could do this either. No script. No cue cards. Just truth. Raw, piercing. I was told I talked too fast, too rough. That I didn't have the look. That I should stick to basketball. Or better yet, just stay quiet." He looked at a group of teachers in the front row. Some shifted in their seats. One looked down. And I did. For a while. I stayed quiet. I sat in the back. I let people pretend I wasn't here. But while you ignored me, I was listening, watching, learning how to outthink every one of you. No one breathed. "I know you didn't see me coming," he said. "That's the thing about shadows. They study everything while you look the other way." A single clap started. From the very back. Then another. Hesitant. Awkward. Then more. Louder. Until the whole room was thunder. Some clapped out of guilt. Some out of genuine shock. Some because they knew they'd just witnessed something historic. But Malik didn't wait for their approval. He turned, walked off the stage, and disappeared through the side door before the applause could catch up to him. Outside, the sky was steel gray. a storm waiting to break. He slid on his headphones, ignored the buzz of his phone, and walked toward the edge of the school lot like the whole world wasn't suddenly talking about him. Behind him, the auditorium lights flickered once, then held steady. Inside, every person who'd ever ignored him was asking the same question. Who the hell is Malik Thompson? Malik Thompson was 17, but he had eyes like he'd already lived a dozen lives. The kind of eyes that didn't flinch when teachers talked down to him, or when students snickered as he walked by. He didn't wear pain like a wound. He wore it like armor. He lived with his grandmother, Miss Loretta, in a cramped one-bedroom apartment in the Southside Projects. Peeling paint, broken elevator, a hallway light that flickered like it was haunted. His mom had disappeared when he was 10, just never came home from work one night. His dad, Malik, had never even seen a picture. Grandma said he was gone before the baby's shoes even came in the mail. So it was just Malik and Miss Loretta. And even though arthritis twisted her fingers and rent chewed half her Social Security check, she made miracles happen with a slow cooker and an old radio. Gospel music filled the walls like a second insulation. So did her rules. Don't ever beg for what you can earn. Don't let him see you cry. Knowledge ain't free, but it'll make you free. Malik followed those rules like scripture. He wasn't popular. He wasn't invited to birthday parties or group chats. Teachers called him gifted when they thought he wasn't listening, and angry when he spoke up. He sat alone during lunch, not because he was shy, but because he'd learned early that being silent kept people from underestimating him out loud. He had one real friend, Keisha, a girl from his building who liked poetry and had pink braids that glowed in the sun. She once called Malik a storm in a hoodie. He didn't correct her. It felt true. His biggest fear wasn't being poor. It wasn't being bullied. It wasn't even ending up like his mom, vanished and unsolved. It was being invisible, because he already knew what that felt like. He knew how it felt to have his hand raised for 10 minutes before being called on, to watch other students get praised for quoting the same books he got silence for, to walk through hallways like a ghost while teachers smiled at white kids and locked their doors when he passed by. What made Malik intriguing wasn't just his intelligence. It was the fire beneath it. He read everything: ancient philosophy, African history, courtroom transcripts, classic literature. He watched trials online, dissected speeches like puzzles, and studied the rhythm of rhetoric the way some kids memorized basketball plays. And he had a gift, a dangerous one. He could listen to someone for 5 minutes and know exactly what they were afraid of, what lie they told themselves before bed, what word would unravel them in public. That's why he chose debate, not because anyone encouraged him, but because it was the one arena where words were weapons, and the sharpest tongue could slice through privilege like butter. But being good wasn't enough. When he joined the team's sophomore year, Coach Randall said, "I don't know if you'll fit the culture, Malik." That was code for, "You don't look like what we want winning." Malik smiled, nodded, stayed late every day, memorized national championship speeches, entered underground city leagues, and won them in secret. He built his own style. Cool, calculated, unapologetic. His first real breakthrough came junior year, when he destroyed a senior in front of the entire team, on a topic he'd only been given 15 minutes to prepare for. People didn't clap. They whispered. Then the senior cried in the bathroom. Randall didn't say congratulations. He said, "Dial it back next time. Don't embarrass your opponent." Malik just nodded. He knew how the game was played. Make them comfortable. Make yourself small. Don't outshine them unless they let you. But he also knew something they didn't. He was done asking for permission. Inside, Malik was a volcano sealed in concrete. Calm on the surface, pressure building underneath. Years of rejection, mockery, erasure, all boiling quietly, waiting. His inner conflict ran deep. He wanted to be seen, to be recognized, to be great. But greatness came with risk. Every time he spoke up, he knew there were people waiting to punish him for being better than the version of him they'd built in their heads. The version that failed. The version that stayed in his lane. Malik didn't want to stay in a lane. He wanted to redraw the road. The world around him was a mess of contradictions. He lived in a city that celebrated diversity but locked its gates at night. Attended a school that quoted Martin Luther King Jr. every January and ignored Malik the rest of the year. He had teachers who praised critical thinking until he used it to challenge their assumptions. And still, he rose. Every day, he woke up before sunrise, meditated while Miss Loretta cooked oatmeal, read a new case file or speech transcript before the bus even showed up. When he got to school, he kept his hood up, his mouth closed, and his mind open. But lately, he was tired of being quiet, because he knew something was coming, and it had his name on it. It started with a list, a neatly printed, color-coded, laminated list. Coach Randall stapled it to the bulletin board outside room 107, right under the Future State Champions banner that had turned yellow from years of indoor sunlight. It was the roster for the regional debate finals, a competition that determined who would represent the school at state and, eventually, nationals. Malik wasn't on it, not as a first-string debater, not even as a backup. He stood there, staring at the list like it had personally insulted him. There were names of students he had beaten, some multiple times. Kids who had lost composure in practice rounds while Malik stayed stone cold. Students who fumbled facts, who panicked when cross-examined. His name was missing like it had never belonged in the first place. A few kids walked by and peeked over his shoulder. "Damn, not even as an alternate," one muttered. "I guess Coach finally got tired of his attitude," another said with a smirk. Malik didn't respond, didn't flinch. He turned around slowly, walked into room 107, and stood in front of Randall's desk like a statue carved out of fury. Coach Randall didn't even look up from his clipboard. "Something you need? I'm not on the list." "Nope, you're not. I've got the best record on the team. The highest judge scores. I won last month's invitational." Randall sighed, finally raising his eyes. "Malik, you're talented. No one's denying that. But this competition is about more than skill. It's about teamwork, chemistry. You're intense. You don't mesh well with the rest of the group." Malik blinked. "So being good isn't enough." "Sometimes it's not," Randall said, shrugging like this was a weather report, not a knife through someone's chest. "Look, you're still young. You've got next year." Malik stared at him for 3 full seconds. "There might not be a next year." Randall didn't answer. He'd already moved on to another task. That night, Malik didn't go home right away. He sat on the steps outside the school as the sky darkened. Cars passed, and the building lights flickered off one by one. The injustice hit him harder than expected, not because he needed a trophy, but because this was his moment, and it was being stolen. He texted Keisha. "Malik, not on the list." Keisha, "Wait. What?" Malik, "Too intense." Keisha, "That's code for too smart for his own good." Malik, "I should have seen this coming." Keisha, "Nah, they saw you coming. That's why they blocked the door." The next morning, the principal made an announcement that sent the entire school into a buzz. The state has announced a special wildcard invitation for underrepresented students to compete at the new national qualifying tournament, the Rising Voices Showcase. Only 1 slot per district. Malik's heart thudded. This was new, uncharted, independent from Coach Randall. The school could nominate a student, but it would be up to the principal, not the coach. He rushed to the main office and asked about applying. The secretary gave him a thin smile. "You'll need a faculty recommendation. It's competitive. Students with outstanding academic and civic records only." He had both, but he also knew how these things worked. So he made a list of teachers. Picked the ones who didn't flinch when he challenged them, who gave him extra reading, who didn't look surprised when he got A's. By lunch, he had 3 letters in hand. By 4th period, he submitted his application packet. Then he waited. The school buzzed with rumors about who might get the slot. Some said it would go to Jessica Tran, the girl who ran 3 clubs and 1 homecoming queen. Others whispered it might be Liam Booker, whose parents were lawyers and who fit the mold. Malik stayed silent. He didn't brag, didn't campaign. He just focused. Then, on Friday morning, his world shifted. He was called to the principal's office. Miss Grant, the principal, sat behind her oak desk, fingers steepled, eyes sharp. "Mr. Thompson," she began, "I've reviewed your application. Your grades, teacher endorsements, and your speech samples are exceptional." Malik nodded slowly, heart pounding. "I'm offering you the nomination." A breath escaped his lips before he realized he'd been holding it. "Thank you. But," she added, holding up a finger, "you'll need to deliver a public speech next week in front of the school board and several donors. They want to see our top nominee in action." Malik nodded again. "When?" "Next Wednesday. Auditorium. Full house." He left the office feeling electric. Every step back to class felt like lightning in his veins. But by the end of the day, the air had changed. People were whispering again, not out of curiosity, but venom. You hear Malik's doing the board speech? They really gave it to him. I bet it's for optics. Diversity points. He won't last. He's not polished enough. The next few days were war. His locker was defaced with the word affirmative action. His debate team partners ignored him. Even Coach Randall didn't acknowledge the nomination. But Keisha did. She met him every evening in the library and rehearsed his speech with him until they got kicked out. She filmed him, critiqued him, rewrote sections line by line. You need to hit them where it hurts, she said. But smile while you do it. The night before the speech, Malik sat on the roof of his building, looking at the stars through a veil of city smog. Miss Loretta came up, wrapped in a quilt, holding 2 mugs of tea. Why you up here? Nervous? She smiled, handing him a mug. You got a voice, baby. And they can't steal that. Not unless you let M. He nodded slowly. Then she added, and when you speak tomorrow, don't just speak for them. She touched his chest. Speak for the boy who sat alone. The one they didn't see. The next morning, the auditorium was packed. Students, teachers, school board members in blazers and ties, local press, donors with checkbooks and expectations. Malik stood backstage in a crisp suit Keisha had tailored from her cousin's closet. His palms were sweating. His throat was dry, but his mind was clear. They said he couldn't win. They said he wasn't what success looked like. They were about to learn what a storm sounded like. The moment Malik walked onto that stage, a wave of silence swept across the auditorium. His footsteps echoed as he reached the podium. The lights beamed down on him like celestial spotlights, making him feel both exposed and powerful. He scanned the crowd. Some faces looked intrigued, others skeptical. Coach Randall sat with his arms crossed. Liam Booker was smirking in the third row. Keisha gave him a small nod from the front, her eyes fierce with belief. Malik took a deep breath and spoke. Good morning. My name is Malik Thompson. I'm a senior at Westview High, and today, I want to talk about 2 things, voice and value. There was a pause, not out of hesitation, but intention. I come from a neighborhood where people think dreams don't grow, where the sound of sirens replaces lullabies, and kids are taught to keep their heads down instead of raising their hands. But I'm here to tell you, dreams grow in the cracks. They bloom in concrete. And voices like mine aren't just valuable, they're vital. He let the words sit. I wasn't supposed to be up here. I wasn't even supposed to be on the debate team this year. But every time I was told I didn't belong, I worked harder. Every time a door was closed, I found a window. And now that I've found my voice, I'm not giving it back. The audience was quiet, leaning in. I've learned that excellence doesn't always come wrapped in a blazer with a legacy surname. Sometimes it comes in sneakers, with a lunch from the free meal program and a book bag full of hope. He saw a few eyebrows lift. Some board members shifted in their seats. He pushed on. Don't mistake passion for aggression. Don't confuse articulation with arrogance. And don't ever think for a second that someone's zip code defines the size of their genius. There was a rumble of murmured approval. I'm not asking for a handout. I'm not here for pity. I'm here to represent a reality that exists whether or not it makes you comfortable. Pause. This competition isn't just a stage for me. It's a message to every kid who's been told they're too much, too loud, too ambitious. If you don't see a seat at the table, build your own. And then, with a steady breath, he closed it out. My name is Malik Thompson, and I'm not here to be chosen. I'm here to claim what I've already earned. As he stepped back from the mic, the auditorium erupted. Some clapped out of politeness, others out of genuine admiration. A few stood. Keisha was the first on her feet, tears streaming down her cheeks. Miss Grant was next, clapping slowly but firmly. Even a few board members joined her, one even dabbing at her eyes. Coach Randall didn't stand. But for the first time, he didn't look so smug. By the next morning, Malik's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Bro, I just saw your speech on Twitter. Fire, fire, fire. You made the news, man. Channel 7. Can you teach me how to talk like that? But the biggest shock came that afternoon when he was called into Miss Grant's office again. She smiled as he walked in. You're officially accepted to the Rising Voices Showcase. Fully sponsored. They've also offered a mentorship slot with a former national champion turned civil rights attorney. They saw the video. Malik sat down, stunned. Is this real? She chuckled. More real than any rejection you've faced. He thanked her, but before he could leave, she added something. You're going to make a lot of people proud, Malik. But more importantly, you're going to make them pay attention. He walked out of that office with fire in his bones. But the journey wasn't all glory. The moment news broke about Malik's acceptance, whispers turned to outright hate from some students. They said it was rigged. They said it was a diversity stunt. They called him a token. One morning, he found his locker had been painted over with the words, "Stay in your lane." He didn't say a word. He just stayed later at the library, rewrote his speech for nationals, practiced with Keisha, who built mock debate rounds for him, complete with opposition arguments and pressure timers. He got emails from students at other schools, black students, brown students, first-gen students. "Your words gave me chills. I didn't know someone like us could make it up there." I cried. "Thank you for speaking." Each message became fuel. One night, Malik sat on his apartment balcony, staring out at the city. His mom had just finished another double shift. His little brother was asleep inside, curled up next to a copy of The Alchemist Malik had given him. He looked up at the stars and whispered, "I'm not done yet." Because he wasn't. He hadn't just stepped onto a stage. He had stepped into a legacy, a revolution wrapped in rhetoric. And the real battle was only just beginning. The flight to DC for the Rising Voices showcase was Malik's first time on a plane. He watched the clouds drift by, head leaned against the small, oval window, fingers nervously drumming against the tray table. Keisha sat beside him, headphones in, giving him space but throwing him supportive glances every now and then. "This is big, huh?" she said, lifting one earbud. Malik nodded. "It's more than big. It's everything." When they landed, a black SUV picked them up. A man in a suit held a sign with Malik's name on it like he was some kind of celebrity. He wasn't used to this treatment, but he didn't let it go to his head. Inside the conference center, banners lined the walls. "The Future Speaks, Rising Voices National Showcase." Students from all over the country were arriving, some from prep academies with legacies dating back to the 1800s, some from rural towns where they had to teach themselves how to debate off YouTube. And then there was Malik, inner-city kid, first-timer, already making waves. That night, he met his mentor, attorney Daniel Cross. Daniel was tall, bald, sharp-eyed, and immediately intense. He didn't shake Malik's hand like a casual greeting. He gripped it like a promise. "You're the kid with the fire," Daniel said. "I've been following your clips. Let's stoke that flame into something that burns the whole damn place down." They trained nonstop for 2 days. Voice projection, logical arcs, emotional punches, strategic silences. You can make a crowd cry, Malik. But if you want to win, you have to make them think and cry. By the 3rd day, Malik was ready. But just hours before he was due to compete, the twist dropped like a guillotine. He was pulled into a private room by one of the organizers. A woman with a clipboard and tight smile sat across from him. "Malik, we've received a complaint." "Several, actually." He frowned. "About what?" "Some of the content in your speech. It's being considered too politically charged. There are concerns that your remarks about systemic bias and racial identity are polarizing." Malik froze. "You're telling me I can't talk about the truth?" "We're not saying you can't. We're suggesting you adjust. Focus on unity, inspiration, personal perseverance. Less commentary." He stared at her like she'd grown horns. "You invited me here because I stood out. Now you want me to water myself down. Just soften the edges, Malik. Make it easier for everyone to digest." He stood, fists clenched. "I'm not here to be digested. I'm here to be heard." She sighed. "We're trying to protect the integrity of the event." "No, you're trying to protect comfort. That's not my job." He stormed out and found Daniel waiting by the hallway. "They told me," Daniel said, nodding grimly. "They tried that on me 20 years ago." "What did you do?" Daniel grinned. "I doubled down and walked out with the trophy." But Malik wasn't sure. In his hotel room that night, he stared at his speech. The words he'd worked so hard to craft now felt like fragile glass under scrutiny. Could he really go up there and say what needed to be said? What if it cost him everything? Keisha came to his room. "You okay?" she asked. "No, I'm pissed and scared." He looked at her, eyes heavy with conflict. "They brought me here to be a symbol, but not to speak truth. They want a sanitized version of me, one they can applaud without having to look in the mirror." Keisha nodded. "Then make them look, Malik. Make them see." He didn't sleep that night. He rewrote parts of the speech, but not to censor it, to sharpen it. When morning came, he dressed in his best outfit, a clean white shirt, black tie, navy blazer. He tucked a photo of his younger brother into his inside pocket, his reminder of why he was doing this. Backstage, the other finalists went up one by one. Impressive speakers, powerful words, but most played it safe. Malik's name was finally called. He stepped out into the massive auditorium, hundreds of people, cameras, judges, news outlets. And he began. Good morning. My name is Malik Thompson, and today, I refuse to play small. The crowd hushed. They told me to take out the parts of my story that might make people uncomfortable. They wanted me to focus on grit, resilience, without naming what I had to be resilient against. Pause. But here's the truth. I am not just a motivational quote wrapped in brown skin. I am not here to be your exception or your inspiration. I am here to remind you that every obstacle I've overcome was placed there by a system that didn't expect me to speak, let alone win. Murmurs began. Judges shifted in their seats. I've walked through hallways where teachers clutched their purses, sat in classrooms where my answers were ignored, lived in neighborhoods where opportunity was a rumor and survival was the curriculum. His voice rose. They say America is the land of the free, but freedom means nothing if you have to ask permission to be heard. Silence. And then, thunderous applause. Not polite, not staged. Real, raw, reverberating. As he walked off stage, someone grabbed his arm. It was the woman from before. Malik, that was. He held her gaze. Honest. Daniel found him afterward. His eyes were damp. You didn't just speak. You detonated. That was history. Malik exhaled. The tension of the last 24 hours melted off his shoulders. But as he stood in the wings, he saw Liam Booker across the room. Liam had been watching from a distance, and he didn't look smug anymore. He looked nervous. That night, the finalists gathered for the award announcements. Third place, second place, then first place, and winner of the Rising Voices National Showcase, Malik Thompson. The room exploded. Keisha screamed. Daniel stood, arms raised. And Malik? He didn't cry. He didn't gloat. He just stepped forward, took the mic, and said, "This one isn't just mine. It's for every kid who was told to stay silent. Keep speaking, even when they try to silence you. Speak. Louder." The afterglow of victory lit up Malik's face like sunrise. He had done it. He'd stood in front of the most powerful people in the academic world and told the raw, unfiltered truth, and they applauded. Cameras captured every second. His name trended online. News outlets picked up the story. Homeless teen wins national showcase with unapologetic speech on racial justice. For a moment, the world seemed to shift in his favor. But moments never last. 2 days after his win, Malik returned home to find the group shelter full and his name missing from the re-entry list. "What do you mean I've been taken off?" he asked the front desk manager. "I'm sorry, Malik. You've been gone longer than 3 days. We had to assign your bed to someone else." He tried explaining. The trip, the competition, the trophy in his backpack. But bureaucracy didn't care about brilliance. And now, once again, Malik had no place to go. He sat on the sidewalk that night, clutching his backpack, unsure of what to do next. Keisha came by, offering to sneak him into her aunt's house, but he refused. "I can't keep being someone's burden," he said. Daniel called him later. "I just found out," Daniel said. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to look weak," Malik admitted. "I thought maybe I had finally made it." Daniel sighed on the other end. "Making it doesn't mean you stop struggling. It means you don't have to struggle alone anymore. Come stay with me, just for a while." Malik paused. He wanted to say yes, but a bigger dilemma gnawed at him. An email he had received earlier that day. It was from the Valentine Fellowship Program, the same elite initiative that Booker had once boasted about. The offer was real. Full scholarship, living stipend, guaranteed internship with a top civil rights firm after graduation. But attached to the offer was a code of representation document. The fine print hit like cold water. Participants must maintain nonpartisan public commentary. No affiliation with political demonstrations or activist groups during tenure. No public speech or writing deemed polarizing. In essence, they wanted his fire without the flames, his voice without his truth. Daniel called again later that evening, asking about the offer. "It's everything I've ever worked for," Malik admitted. "But they want to put a leash on me, turn me into a brand, not a voice." Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I've been there. Big-name law firm wanted to hire me after I won a case against them. 6-figure offer, corner office. But they didn't want the fighter. They wanted the trophy. What did you do? I walked away. Built my own practice. It took years. And I struggled. But I slept easy every night, knowing I never betrayed who I was. Malik looked up at the night sky, stars blinking like distant promises. What if I say no and the door never opens again? He whispered. Then you build your own damn door. Malik sat with the choice like it was a living thing. Option 1, security, stability, silence. Option 2, uncertainty, authenticity, risk. He visited the Valentine Fellowship headquarters the next day for a scheduled tour. The building was pristine, glass walls, polished floors, conference rooms named after former presidents. They treated him like royalty. He shook hands with directors, posed for photos, smiled while his soul clenched tighter. At the end of the visit, he was ushered into a quiet boardroom. The director, a poised woman in a crimson blazer, sat across from him. You're a powerful young man, Malik, she said. And power, if channeled properly, can change the world. But to do that, you have to learn the art of diplomacy. You have to play within the system to change the system. I don't want to play the system, Malik said. I want to expose it. She gave a patient smile. And you can. In time. But first, you must be accepted into the rooms that matter. And those rooms require polish. Malik stared at her. You mean silence. I mean strategy. He stood, slow and firm. No offense, but I don't need to be in your room to make change. I just need a mic. And people who are listening. He left the building without signing anything. Outside, his breath felt different. Lighter. Unshackled. He still didn't know what came next. But for once, uncertainty didn't feel like fear. It felt like freedom. That night, Malik launched a live stream from a borrowed library computer. Title, Why I Said No to the Fellowship. He spoke not as a prodigy, but as a person. I'm tired of seeing the same cycles. The same systems dressing themselves up as solutions while silencing the voices that dare to speak truth. I didn't rise from the streets just to trade my fire for comfort. The video went viral. Again. But this time, something bigger happened. A group of independent donors came forward, activists, educators, lawyers, offering to fund his own platform, a youth-led media and advocacy project. Malik would be its founding voice. No leash. No scripts. Just truth. But even with the momentum, one final test waited for him. A month later, he received a letter. From the courthouse. Case, Thompson versus City of Brookdale Police Department. Status, motion approved for civil hearing. The old trauma resurfaced, the assault, the officer, the silence that followed. He had filed the civil suit weeks ago, more as a symbolic act than anything he expected to go through. But now it was real. The court date was set, and Malik was going to face the system that first tried to crush him. He would stand as both plaintiff and witness. Keisha and Daniel stood with him as he prepared. This won't be easy, Daniel said. They'll try to discredit you. Twist your story. I know. You're ready? Keisha asked. Malik nodded. I was born ready. I just didn't know it back then. He looked at the suit Daniel had gifted him. Tailored, sleek, powerful. This time, he wasn't walking into court as a defendant or a threat. He was walking in as a storm. The day arrived. The courtroom buzzed with quiet anticipation. The same judge who had once smirked at Malik now sat at the bench, expression unreadable. But Malik didn't flinch. He took the stand. He told his story, and he didn't leave a single truth behind. When he was finished, the courtroom was silent. Not because they doubted him, but because, for once, they heard him. The courtroom held its breath. Malik stepped down from the witness stand with calm certainty, each step echoing like a heartbeat against marble floors. His testimony wasn't just heard, it was felt. There was no trembling in his voice, no shame in his eyes. He had faced the system that once tried to erase him and told the truth on record, without compromise. The judge called for a recess. Lawyers whispered, spectators murmured. Some shook their heads in disbelief, others wiped quiet tears. Even those who once doubted him were now wrestling with the undeniable reality. Malik was not the stereotype they expected. He was the truth they feared. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. News cameras were ready. Reporters called his name. But Malik didn't run to the spotlight. He stood with Keisha and Daniel, taking it in quietly. A few familiar faces from the shelter showed up too, some of them holding hand-painted signs. Justice for Malik. Silence no more. The system should be ashamed. Malik looked out at the people. This wasn't just his story anymore. It was theirs too. When court reconvened, the judge began to speak. Mr. Lewis, this court recognizes not just the legal weight of your claim, but the moral clarity you've brought to this room. You've reminded us all that justice is not given, it is demanded. A small smile flickered at the corners of the judge's mouth. I rule in favor of the plaintiff. Damages will be awarded. The officer involved will be subject to internal review, and further disciplinary actions are to be taken by the department. It was over. No cheers erupted in the courtroom. Just a deep, collective exhale. Outside, the crowd erupted into applause as Malik exited. Cameras flashed. People chanted his name. But through all the noise, his focus remained calm. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder. You did what most never dare to do. You changed the narrative. Keisha stepped in with a grin. You're not the homeless kid anymore. You're the voice that shook the system. Malik smiled. Not from ego, but from peace. He didn't need their titles. He didn't need their approvals. He had his voice. He had his truth. And now, he had a platform to help others find theirs. Malik's victory wasn't just about the case. It was about the ripple effect it had on the lives around him. The courtroom silence turned into an anthem of change that echoed far beyond the walls of the justice system. His name wasn't just known, it was respected. Months passed, and Malik continued his advocacy. He was invited to speak at youth shelters, schools, and community events. Every time he stepped onto a stage, he shared more than just his story, he shared hope. He was living proof that a single voice, standing tall against the odds, could alter the course of history. But the journey didn't stop at the courtroom. Malik had plans. He started a foundation aimed at helping underprivileged youth find their way out of hopelessness. He helped build a mentorship program that paired young people with professionals who shared their experiences, helping them navigate obstacles they didn't know how to overcome. Keisha and Daniel stood by him, their support unwavering. Together, they created a legacy. Malik's story became a beacon for those who felt unseen, unheard, and unimportant. His message was simple yet profound. Your past does not define you. Your voice does. He had come from a place where dreams were considered unachievable. But through resilience, conviction, and the courage to stand tall, Malik had proven that no one was too small to make a difference. He wasn't just changing his life. He was changing the lives of countless others. And to the audience watching his journey unfold, Malik's final message was clear. If they say you can't win, let that be the fuel that drives you to prove them wrong. Your potential is limitless. Never let anyone silence your voice, because the world needs to hear it. The screen fades to black. Malik's story wasn't a one-off victory. It was the beginning of a movement, one that would continue to inspire for generations to come.